Well, good morning, everyone, and happy Friday. So welcome back to another UI challenge that we're going to have a look at today. So today's challenge is going to be this thing I have on my screen here, which is kind of an interesting little layout. It's pretty colorful. So actually a very, very nice looking layout. And before we get started, hope everyone's doing well. Anime Lover says a linked list very similar to flipping in a book. And hi Lachlan, can't stick around today. That's fine. Gonna go find a mountain, have some fun putting your view cell. Or have fun putting your view cell in your view model. Yeah, well, this is kind of interesting. Let's actually have a look at the design here. So this is the design. And what we have on this design here is a little bit interesting, right? So what I try and do with these UI challenges is pick something which I haven't done before, something which has a nice design. So one of the criteria I use is a design that I'd like to actually investigate and sort of see how it breaks down, basically. So as part of sort of me learning a little bit more about design, what's interesting about this one, there's kind of two things actually that are quite interesting. The first is you might notice that on the list view page, which we're going to have a look at first of all, as that list view scrolls, it actually animates the backgrounds of the cells inside of there. So that's not something I've seen before. So we're going to have a look at that. I actually had a little bit of a look at how I might do that earlier on, which is why Lachlan's comment is in there about putting a view cell in my view model. So there's some different ways that we can access the view cell. So we'll talk about those as we go through, as we start to build it out. It's got, a really interesting design palette. And also the other challenge here as well, which is something I've never done before, is this sort of shared transition. As the user selects one of these items, it sort of expands out to another page and moves the elements across. So we'll have a look and see if we can do that. Probably won't get around to that one today, I'd say. We'll focus on this list view page as a starting point. Just having a look at the comments there. So Lolada King, welcome. Joining us from Nigeria. Well, welcome. Welcome. Not sleeping. Oh, well, I'll see if I can fix that for you. All right, so let's sort of have a look at this design. So first of all, very important, this is not my design. This is one that I found over on Dribble. It's by Tubik Studios. So it's actually over here on Dribble. Let me paste some links into the chat. Dragon, it's not Friday. It's Friday somewhere in the world. Here in Australia, it's Friday. Ah, Dragon, 3 months. Fantastic. Thank you so much for the subscription. Appreciate it. I really do. Thank you so much. All right. So this is the design over at Dribble. I've created a little repo that we're going to put this in. This is the repo here. Okay, so we'll actually put the code inside of here. Let me just do this. Let me get into my stream diary. And let's put in a special thanks. Oh, it's too early in the morning for me. Special thanks. Why be a dragon? I always get that wrong, right? Amar, welcome from Syria. Appreciate it. I've actually been to Syria. I went to Syria in about 1997. Syria is an amazing country. I love my time in Syria. So really pleased to have you here. Beautiful. Dragon says everyone gets his name wrong. All right, let's get into this, shall we? let's have a look at what we're going to do. Now, the first thing I like to do when I've got a design is sort of break it down, have a look at what's going on with it. Often the easiest way I find to do this, when you've got animations like this, is actually convert it into a PNG, a movie, right? So I think I've already saved it here. Yeah, I've saved it here. So a useful site, if we go GIF to PNG or MP4, sorry. Let's go here and let's go and upload our GIF here. And then put it out to an MP4 file. Right, and we'll convert that to an MP4 because that just means that we can actually go through that video and we can just sort of scrub through it and we can see what happens. So this is a really cool site for that. So now what I can do is I can go and get that MP4, save that, and then I can go ahead and I can open that, and that just allows me to sort of scrub through it. Okay, so let's have a look at this design. Let's sort of wind it back here. So first thing to note, each cell in this list view here has sort of some unique colors going on. Okay, so we're gonna have to have books. It's a list of books. It's actually a book swap application. So it's got some unique colors going on here. Also, as this animates, or as it moves more accurately, it actually animates those background angles on here. Okay, so not something I see very often in designs, but it's a really nice effect. I've actually had a look at this in a fair amount of detail, and I actually really can't work out what the algorithm is that they're using here. I suspect that they just did this in like Adobe and just did some random stuff. So we'll have to make up the rules for how this works. But basically, what's happening is as it moves, I'm guessing it's based on the position. Hey, it's R2. Welcome, R2. And somewhere I've got a button for you, R2. I need a button for Dragon. I think everyone who subscribes should have a sound effect. Let me just see where R2's. That should be my new thing. If you subscribe, of course I should know where it is. Here it is.
It's R2, so you can't argue with it.
So sample might be a little bit low. Okay, cool. So, so this animates as it goes through. Okay, so we need to know the position of the cells, presumably, in order that we can actually do that that angle on there. Okay. The second part of this whole challenge, well, actually, there's another part with this list view as well, which I'm not quite sure which approach we should use, and that is each cell has different colors as well for things like the titles. Okay, inside of here. So we might have a few colors in our view model, which, as we know, is generally not a good idea. Hey, PT Dave, welcome. Hope everything's going well for you. All right, so we've got that. Now, the other bit is when the user goes and clicks on an item, it does this transition from, so basically they select this item and then it transitions across and does some funky animations out there. I'm hoping that we can actually use a shared transition. PT Dave, doing good? Building a Xamarin helper package for NuGet. Fantastic. I don't build enough NuGets, NuGets as they're known. Okay, cool. So some funky stuff there. You know, we got this little spinning thing. We could animate that. I'm hoping to use shared transitions. Somewhere on Twitter, I saw somebody has a shared transition library. We'll see if we can use that. Okay, to bring in that page. So anyway, lots of cool stuff there. Where we want to start is basically breaking down this design, I think, and we'll get ourselves some colors and fonts and things like that. So so we'll do that first of all. Let's write ourselves a little bit of a checklist here of what we're going to do. So first of all, we're going to break down the design. So we're going to have a look at some fonts. Yeah, Dragon, you've seen that shared transition library. Yeah, I just saw in Twitter that it has a new update and apparently it's much cooler. I've never used it, so that'll be something we can try out. So we're going to have to get some fonts. We're going to have to get some colors. I'm in Australia, so... Well, you know what? Where's my keyboard? Colors. Some images. That'll probably do us. And then we'll focus on the list view page. Okie dokie. So let's bring this into... Let's bring this into Adobe XD. And this is how I normally start out these sessions. I hope you find it okay that I don't just jump straight into code. I think it's kind of useful sometimes to see some design tools. So I'm going to basically go and grab this, create a rectangle inside of Adobe XD, get rid of the border on that, and then I'm going to paste that image into there. Cool. All right. So that actually works surprisingly well. Hang on. We need to expand that out a little bit. Because I think... How big's my page? Let's hold down the Alt key. Get it about right. Cool. Maybe a little bit more side. There we go. Cool. So that's the design we're working with. So that's one of the pages with some colors. So we're going to need to grab some toolbar icons up here. So we'll go ahead and we'll create those. We'll go and we'll capture ourselves some colors. Normally what I like to do is create myself another artboard in Adobe XD and then just start sort of spitting out colors onto here. So I'll do that. Okay, and then I'll go and grab some fills. So I'll grab that title bar color. And grab a few of these sort of colors here. I think an important aspect of this design is the colors. Space those nice and evenly. Get that OCD. All right, cool. That's the main colors. Now, what have we got? We've got a cell up the top here, or something above the list view, which says the book that we're swapping. And then we've got our individual cells with our gradients here. And we'll have to work out how to do this. One way that we could do this sort of gradient, I'm going to probably use Scare Sharp for this because it has to animate nicely. But we could create the different shades through just adjusting the luminosity or luminosity of the particular color that we have, which might be a good approach. We'll see if it works. And if not, we might have to have explicit colors for the darker gradients that we have in here. Okay, cool. Now we also need some icons up the top here. So let's go ahead and create those first of all. Okay, so I'll zoom in here. Grab myself a pen. I'm just going to draw over top of this. So I'll start off with a line here. These look like they're black, so we'll make this black. Make it too wide. We'll give it a rounded end. Okay, something like that. And then we'll create and bring another one over here. Of course, if I was actually working with the designer, they'd probably just give me these designs, but I'm not. Create ourselves a circle here. That looks okay. Looks about right. So let's grab that. Let's copy that. Let's move it down to here. And this one here looks like it's just the same thing. Let's rotate it. Let's do that. Let's just go whoop. Beautiful. Fantastic. So now we have all of those that we can group together. And I don't know what this is. I'm guessing it's probably preferences. So Dragon, I like that you're showing the process used for designing in this challenge. It's one of the most frequent questions you get. Oh, awesome. Awesome. I'm pleased you like it. You know, sometimes people just want to see code, but it's good to see how we do those. Okay, cool. So we've got ourselves preferences here. Now let's, I don't even know what this is. I don't know what that signifies, but let's see if we can create it. So again, what we'll do is we'll come in here, we'll say, we don't want to, oops, we'll draw ourselves a circle. Okay, if I hold down the shift key, it's gonna like keep it as a circle. Say, okay, well, let's have no fill. Let's have a border color of black. We'll make it 2. So that's what our other one is. Probably supposed to be a magnifying glass. Yeah, maybe it's a search button. You might be right. It's just an unusual one. But again, this is like one of those interesting challenges, right? How do you, if a designer, or if you're trying to mimic a design, how do you actually go and do that? Okay, so I'm going to copy that, and then I'm going to basically just make it a little bit. Oops, hang on. Did I copy it? Paste it. There we go. Hold down my Alt key. Okay, so Alt means that it's going to go from its central point in Adobe XD. Shift is going to make it always maintain an aspect ratio, basically square. Okay, so now I can do something like that. Okay, now here's the interesting bit. The interesting bit in this one is that it doesn't go sort of full circle, right? So we can see that it come in here, it starts here and it ends there. So what we can do is we can actually go and get a circle in Adobe XD and we can say, hey, let's make this into a path. And then once you have that as a path, we can then go in and we can edit it. Okay, so which means that we can come here and we can grab our pen tool and I can break this apart here. Okay, so hello, everybody, hello. And basically grab that. And then well, actually, what we might do before we do that, because it actually comes over a little bit further than, it doesn't start at the top. So let's do this first of all. Let's rotate a little bit. Oops, that wasn't rotate. Here we go. We'll rotate this around a little bit. There we go. And so now, if we select it, with our pen, we can break this apart. We can, probably a little bit far actually. Wait on, let me just, the problem is once I break it apart, it's no longer going to be a circle, so it's not going to rotate in the same space. Okay. Let's try that. That'll do. We can always fix it later on. Okay, so let's edit the path. Grab this section here. In Adobe XD, you can only delete the last point. Yeah, I don't think you can draw arcs in Adobe XD. But what you can do is you can get a circle and then you can start chopping the circle up. So what I can also do is I can say, okay, well, let's, if you notice that as I move this around here, it's sort of following the path, which means I can grab a point down here, for example. Okay, add another point there and then get this one and then delete that one. So now I've got an angle there. Yeah, that's kind of about right. Yeah, tad big, but anyway, we'll go with that. And we need as there was a little, actually one other thing, we probably want to give it some rounded caps, don't we? Let's give it rounded caps, like so. Let's grab ourselves a line, and we'll take that from the center of this. And we'll say, let's draw it down to there. Make it black, make it 2 points. A rounded cap on the end. And then we can go and grab this end. And where's it comes? Comes over here. Yeah, something like that. So now if we grab those bits, let's call this our search icon. I think you're probably right. So I'll group that together. And we'll give this a name. Call it. Can I rename that? Anyway, it's not bad. It's not bad. It's probably a little bit. Let's grab this circle here. And let's make it a little bit bigger. There we go. That's better. Beautiful. Okay. So we've got a couple of our elements there. Beautiful. We won't worry about the back arrow for the moment. Have a look at the chat window there. Dave, PT Dave, time for bed. All right, well, have a good sleep. So I'll upload the videos later on so you can check out what we did. And Shabadiridia. That was terrible. Anyway, appreciate your work. No problems. It's always a little bit of fun. Okay, cool. So we've got a couple of elements in there. What else should we do? Let's put those up here and up here. We'll export those in a moment. But first of all, let's grab some books, shall we? We've also got this pen here as well. So I'm just going to create a rectangle about the size of this book. Okay, we'll put that over here, and then we'll go and we'll find some images. So we've also got a book over here as well. So that'll be our basic book layout. So let's do this book cover extremely loud. Okay, something like this. And we'll go and we'll select that, copy this image. So the trick with Adobe XD, when you're working with this and you want to constrain it, right? Like if I go to this and I paste it, houses, okay? It's going to be a really big image here and it's going to be hard to size. So instead what I can do is I can have a rectangle and then I can paste it into that rectangle. Okay, and the cool thing about this is I can also, you know, if I wanted to adjust it inside of there as well. So that's pretty cool. All right, in this case here, I'm gonna get rid of the borders. All right, cool. So there's a book. Let's go and create some other books just to get us started. Always good idea to name your elements. So let's call this book. Okay, everything is illuminated. I don't know, something like that. Cropped, isn't it? Let's grab that one. And if we paste the appearance in there, beautiful, done. All right. We'll just grab a couple more before we start writing up some code. So Ulysses James Joyce. Now, okay. So with this one here, okay, we haven't got an image that matches this exactly. Okay, so here's something you can do if you want to. Let's say you want something that looks like this, right? And you're trying to find a design, and you're trying to find this particular layout, or that particular, or something that looks like that, right? Which is quite often what I do. You know, I'm trying to find the images that are pretty similar. So if I was to grab this and then I was to paste it in here, right? A couple of ways I could do this. I could either come in here and I could, you know, like blow this right up here, and I could just sort of steal the image from here if you like. So that's one way I could do it. Trying to line this up with that there. Okay, something like that, right? So I could grab that, which would be okay, but it's really low res. Okay, so what you could also do, and this is sometimes how I find my images as I work on this stuff, right, is I could go and get this, and I could export this. And let's go and put this on my desktop here. Okay, and let's create it there. I've given it a terrible name of rectangle 8, right? But then I could come into Google image search here. And I could search, upload the image. Okay, and then we find some images down here. So there we are. So now we can go and grab that one, and we got a much higher res version of it. And come back here. Oops. Paste the appearance in here. Beautiful. So now we've got a high res version of it. Awesome. What else have we got? Well, we got flowers for Algernon. Let's just do that one more at the moment. And I think it looks a bit like this. Oops, I think I just launched my email. You don't need to see that. Wowzers, that didn't work very well, did it? Let's come back here. Copy that image. Yeah, beautiful. Okay, so now we have some better higher res images going on. We'll probably end up, hang on, I gotta quit out of my email. Beautiful. Okay, cool. That gives us a starting point. Now there's some other books as well. Let's just start off with some of these. We'll just duplicate them and then we can add some more later on when we sort of fine tune our design. So we'll call that. We'll call this one. Book Illuminated. We'll call this one Ulysses. And we'll call this one Flowers, maybe. Cool. Beautiful. All right, what other resources do we need? We've got those books, we've got these elements here. Looking good. Oh, we need a pen. We need a little pen up here. Let's go and find ourselves a pen. Normally it's easiest to find SVGs. So we'll find a pen that looks something similar. What's it look like? Doesn't really matter. It's pretty small. So we'll just find a pen that we like. Get that one. Yep. Oh, right. Websites are so annoying these days. Let's go and save that. Pencil.svg and bring that in. Probably going to be huge when we bring it in. Let's have a look. There it is. Hope I'm not making anyone seasick with this zooming. See if we can steal a color from here. Pretty light color. I think I would choose a higher contrast personally. Let's get more of the darker color. And we'll go with that. Pencil. That's a good name. Beautiful. Okay, cool. So we've acquired ourselves some resources. Let's go and export these out. So I should be able to go ahead and select. What's this group here? We haven't named this. It's our search. Okay, so back in Visual Studio World, I've created the initial project in here. So all I've done is just file newed up a project. And what we want to do is we basically want to go and export those images into here. Let's do that. So if they're nicely named, like what we have here at the moment, okay, I should be able to select all of those images, and I can go export selected. I can say for iOS, let's go and let's not put them on my desktop. Instead, let's say export selected, iOS, find my directory. It's going to be like d:/GitHub. Book swap, iOS folder, under resources, and it's going to go and export all of the different sizes, which is cool. And then we can do the same thing for Android. But of course, we'll select the Android folder. Now what we can do is we can come back into here. They show me all the files. And all things going well, we'll be able to go and import these. Beautiful. So we select those. We select this one. Those. Again, this is the boring part, but it's pretty important, I think, just to get some of this stuff set up to start with. Okay. Including project. And we're good. All right, and then we'll go down here, sort of hidden behind my head here, and we're just going to include the same resources. Hey, we just got a raid. Talk to me, Gooseman, raiding with 21 viewers. Welcome, Gooseman, and everyone who's raiding. So what have you been up to? The goose. From the goose nest. Thanks so much, Gooseman. Have a great dinner, and thanks for the raid. So for those of you who've just joined, of course, welcome. What are we doing here? Well, I've been doing a lot of Adobe XD work here, but really what we're trying to do is in this stream, we basically take designs that we find on Dribble, and then we go and we export those, or no, we don't export them. We try and redesign these or re-implement these in Xamarin.Forms. So it's what we call a Xamarin.Forms UI challenge. So that's exactly what we're doing here. We're trying to basically create this UI. And what I've been doing up until now is actually just grabbing all of the resources, creating all of the resources, and then we're going to include them into our project here. And then we can start building this out. Okay, so I'm just going to keep importing those. So if you want to learn about Twitch development, Talk to Me Gooseman does quite a bit of that. Thanks for the follow, Geth. Bye, Geth. Go and add you in here. Bye, Geth. Follow. Beautiful. Thank you so much. Interesting concept. Yeah, it's actually an interesting design. The reason why I've sort of had a look at this is just to, because it does some unusual things. It does this shared transition that we can see here, but also what it does is this, when we wait for this to come back around, it does this animation of the cells, which is something you don't often see. And it's a good technical challenge to try and work out how we do that. Okay, cool. So now what we have is we've got a bunch of resources inside of here. And because we're just starting off this project, we're going to start right at the basics, and we're going to have to create ourselves a view model and a model. Basically do that. So I'm going to create myself a models folder here, and we'll add a book class in here. So if you got any questions or, want to chit chat, feel free. Let's just create a book model. Now we're going to use an MVVM pattern of sorts inside of here. So with MVVM, the idea is that you've got your view model, which provides information to your view. But if things update, you want to notify about those changes. And so there's a little bit of infrastructure required. One of the infrastructure, or one of the helpers I like to use is one by James Montemagno called MVVM helpers. This one right here. I will install that. Erdebond, thank you so much for the follow and welcome. Let's add you to the thanks list. I can find my Erdebond. right, beautiful. All right, so we added a little dependency in here, a little NuGet MVVM helpers. So the idea then is we can say, I'm going to make this an observable object. I think that's what it's called. Okay, using MVVM helpers, so that library. And so what's cool about that is that will give us some methods that we can use to then propagate those changes. Okay, so what's a book got? A book has, it has a string, which is its title. Now I probably don't need this to update, but we'll do it anyway. We'll say, okay, well, let's have a getter, which is going to return a title. And then we'll have a setter. And in the setter, we'll say, we're going to use a method, which is available from the MVVM helpers called setProperty. All it does is it basically says, I'm going to set a property. It's of a string. We're going to, the backing store, so the backing class, we'll call that underscore title, and then the value. And so what it will do is it will basically say, okay, if this value was changed, I'm going to raise a property change for you. We'll go and use some refactoring from some Visual Studio to go and add that in there. Beautiful. Okay, let's add some more properties in. In fact, you know what? I'm going to copy pasta this one because nothing bad ever happened when you copied. Actually, I got a special button for when I copy paste. You ready?
Shame. Shame. Shame.
All right, you should never copy paste. In this case, I'm gonna just go with it. All right, so we're gonna have an author as well. I actually should set up a little command to do this for me, actually. But anyway, so we got our author. We're gonna have a cover image. Okay, so we'll call this cover image. So this will just be the name of that file that represents the cover. Beautiful. And we'll also bring in an accent color as well. Right, so this is probably what triggered what triggered that. What triggered that was a little button on my Stream Deck here, and the reason I pressed it, let's do it again, is when I copy pasted. So I hit a button. When I know I'm doing something bad, I like to hit that button, and it reminds me not to do it anymore. Oh, that would be that would be now that's an awesome idea for a Visual Studio add-in, actually. That's a great idea. I should have just told you it was a Visual Studio add-in. Yeah, okay, so why be a dragon? Let's just call you Dragon. One of these days we'll use Foddy property changed. Yeah, so another way, if nobody's seen this, there's a really cool NuGet repository called Foddy. There's a whole bunch of things in Foddy, but one of them is property changed. Somewhere down here. It's not in the main Foddy, it's Foddy dot. In fact, should we do it? Oh, no. Property changed. That's what it's called. There, property change.foddy. Yeah, you're right. So what this does is Foddy is a code weaver. So the idea is that when you do your build, it will actually see it'll have a look at your code. And in our case, what it will do is if it sees this implements iNotify property changed, right? Then it will actually go and inject all of this code that I'm doing here. for us, and it will raise the property changes. So it is really cool. Maybe I should have used it, but sometimes I like to be a little bit more explicit, but I do love a bit of foddy. All right, so what do we have? We have accent color. Okay, cool. And I think where I normally use it is actually for classes just like this, where it's actually not really doing that much. You know, it's like literally just getting and setting values. So it's a really good option for it. But foddy's incredible. Okay, so there's our model. Okay, we should add ourselves in a view model here as well. And then once we do that, we can start actually writing some real code. So let's call this like our books view model. And we'll do the same thing. We'll make this an observable object. Really not going to have too much in here. All it's really going to be doing is going to be exposing a collection of books. All right, so I'll do this through an iList. Right, the idea is this is actually going to be an observable collection. Let's fix some references here. Right, so this would, well, let's just call this books. Right, so this is a property. You see that it's an iList. What we're actually going to do in our constructor for this bad boy is we're going to say books equals a new observable collection of books, right? And the reason I like to do that is that it means if I wanted to change this from an observable collection to something else a little bit later on. So there's a whole bunch of different sorts of observable collections. Like James has one which does an observable range collection, which just is, you know, derived class of observable collection. I could change it without actually changing this interface. Right? So that's the idea. Okay, cool. So what we need to do now is we're going to just jam in some books here. So I'll create a new book, put some titles in. Okay, this is a super boring bit. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to put this over here on this other side of the screen, and I'm just going to smash in a few of these. Okay, so what else did we have? We had a cover image with an author. Should actually probably make this programming books. That would have been better. Oh, I suppose we get a literature lesson at the same time. Accent color for this. Okay, so I'll basically go and grab that color. So this is probably another one of those shame things. In that, into my view model here, I'm actually putting something which is a little bit view specific, right? So you can see that, you know, it's actually saying the color of the accent for this book is this hex value. The reason I'm doing that is because, you know, each of these different books has different colors associated with it and different text colors as well. So it's kind of, you know, an MVVM purist would slap me for that. I'm not so worried at the moment. We can always refactor it later on. So let's put a cover image in. So our cover image, I've got a few of these in here that I've brought in. Let me just go and look at the right folder. Cover image, really? Wow, too many O's all over the place. Image, beautiful. You might notice I spelt that wrong. That's actually because I spelled it wrong in the, just having a look at the resource over here. Should change that, but you know what? In the interest of getting through this, I'm just gonna go with that. Change it later. Famous last words, right? I'll just go and refactor this later on. Okay, let's create another book. So this one is Ulysses. Name's Joyce. Who's read any of these books? I like to say that I have. I'm not a prolific reader. In fact, my 9-year-old daughter challenged me to a reading challenge the other day, so she could have some Minecraft time if she managed to read a book faster than me. What am I doing here? My goodness. All right, hang on a second. Always just read articles. Yeah, that's right, Dragon. I'm a bit the same. So much time trying to just keep up with everything that's happening. It's been a while, Geth. All right. So I'll just do these, and then we'll go ahead and we'll construct a screen. And we'll fill more in, because we'll probably need more in order to actually work with our scrolling. So we'll come back to this. So we call this flowers. Beautiful. Okay, so we've at least got ourselves a view model with some books inside of there. Oh, you did read Flowers for Algernon. Would you recommend? Bygeth? Should I do it? Yeah, fantastic. It's a fast read. Fast read's a good read. Isn't that what they say? All right. Cool. So let's go and start working on our page, shall we? Now, what we have at the moment, I might run this up under Android here, and then what we can do is we can start making some changes to it. Right, because we now have hot reload inside of a good old friend Xamarin.Forms. So if I go ahead and I run this puppy, wherever my emulator is, where's my emulator? Still building. I can come in here and I can start editing this and recreating our design. So wait for that to spin up. Okay, while that's spinning up, let's have a look at this design. Talk about how we might achieve, put it out of the way here, how we might achieve this. So my basic theory here is what we're going to do is we're going to have a page here with a navigation bar. Okay. This top section here doesn't scroll, right? So we'll have that there, and we'll actually have a grid with basically 2 rows in it. Row here, a row there, and then we're going to have a list view for this content inside of there. And so then we'll have each of these view cells. Okay, that's the kind of basic layout that we're going to have. Okay, cool. Hey, that's a cool emoticon you got going there, Dragon. That's hot reload, is it? Hot shell. Okay, so all things going well, our hot reload should work. Yep, cool. So as we change this, we can see that change. Left side hamburger menu. So it may require a hamburger menu. In this case here, it's got a back button. in the right side. Oh, this isn't a hamburger button. This is like a settings button. So yeah, we'll put that toolbar button in. But basically, this is how we're going to go. We're going to go, let's create ourselves a grid. Let's have 2 rows. Right, the first row is going to be, I don't know, 100 high, for example. The second row is going to take up the rest of the space. Right, so if people aren't familiar with this, the idea here is, and again, I should use debug rainbows, shouldn't I? Keep promising myself to do that. Right, so if I said I have a box view. Rockclane, can you achieve a right side hamburger easily in Forms? I don't think so. I'm not sure whether we support, if it's a right to left language, whether the hamburger goes on the right. But if you're talking about like a left to right language, in fact, the OS may even do that actually. But I think you would have to do it as a custom piece. But that's not that difficult to do. All you're really doing is you essentially just throw a button over here, and then you slide a panel in from the left hand side. So it wouldn't be crazy hard to do. So just to let you know the basic layout that we have here. Where's my IntelliSense gone? Orange, do we have an orange? And then if I said this is in grid row 1. Okay, cool. It's not too late for debug rainbows. You know what? It's not. It's not too late. You're right. You know what? Because debug rainbows is cool. And Stephen does so much awesome stuff in the community. So what we're talking about here is so what I did there was just to give you an idea of the layout, right? I put a couple of box views inside of there. And the idea of the box views is that then you could visualize where those particular cells are, right? But there is a really, really cool library called Debug Rainbows. Probably the only debug rainbows around. It is, right? So this is a NuGet package. And what this will do for us, let me get that out of the way, is if you bring this in, you can basically just set a property and it will highlight all of your different elements inside of here, which is pretty cool. And I think this just needs to go inside of your shared project, I suspect, because it's not really doing anything platform. I think it's just, well, all it's really doing is just iterating through all the subviews. So let's just do that, hey? Like I say, I always keep thinking I should use debug rainbows. Let's do it. Huh? Really? How many rainbows could there be? There we are. I'll install that NuGet package and let's see if it works. So I should be able to come in here then, pick this up, add in a namespace. Save it as it's building. And what's the property? No, I don't need to do that. Don't I just say rainbows equals true or something? My page. Where'd you go? Go Android emulator. Yeah, never actually a good idea. Change your code while you're compiling. All right, cool. So theoretically, if I get rid of that, actually, will it do the inside of grid views? I'm not sure it will. Let's have a look. If we get rid of these, yeah, it's actually just showing the grid itself, right? So if I put those back, you can see they're the two cells. Okay. Now, what you notice is Docker has an update. Don't need that. We'll leave debug rainbows on though, because that could be interesting. Nah, so I think if I get rid of these, Dragon, it will render it, right? So that's the debug rainbow going on there, right? But it's doing it for the control, which is the grid, right? But if I put a label in here, right, into one of these, I bet you it'll color that label. Yeah, see, so it's colored that label. And so this is why it's really cool, actually. This is why debug rainbows is cool, because if I had actually thought to myself, you know what, this hello, let's change its font size here. Right. Sometimes it can be a little bit misleading what's going on, right? Because you think, hello, this label should only be that big, right? But actually the default sizing for it is to fill, right? So, you know, it's really cool in that regard, because then I could say, oh, my horizontal options are start, my vertical options are start. And now I can see that it is actually taking up just that part. So that's why debug rainbows is cool. Okay, anyway. What we want to do at the moment is we want to go and add in that top section. Or actually, maybe we should actually start out with the title view. Okay, in order to get our navigation page title view. So I'm going to wrap this puppy, because at the moment we have no toolbar, right? And so in order for this to have a toolbar, what we're going to have to do is we're going to wrap it in a navigation page, right? So in our app.xaml.cs, we say, hey, I want this to be inside a new navigation page. And by doing that, when I run it now, it should have a title bar. So what is debug rainbow? Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Dragon. All it really does, and I haven't digged through the code, but what I'm guessing it does is it just iterates through all of the controls and just gives them a unique background color. And by doing that, you can see the layout. You can see how big they are. All right, cool. So now what we have is we've got ourselves a title bar, right? So if I said the title equals hello world, right, there we are. That's my title bar. Okay. Now, in our case, we have sort of a fairly explicit requirement. We have a navigation page, which is going to have some toolbar buttons, right? So I can set some toolbar buttons in here. So content page dot toolbar items, like that. Okay. And then I can create some toolbar items, right? And then I can give it an icon. So one icon was, what do we call it? We probably called it something like settings. Preferences, of course. Okay, and we might have another one, which was our search. Okay, and then if we go and have a look at what we have, there we are. We've now got our two icons up there, right? So we've got our two buttons, which is cool. Now, if I give this a title, so this is where sometimes it can be useful to customize this stuff, right? So here's my title of hello, right? So on Android, the titles are always going to appear on the left, right? Because that's how Android rolls. basically. In iOS, it would appear in the middle, right? Now, what we can do is we can be a little bit more, if we look at our design and we think a really important part of this design is that, for example, in the toolbar, the search is always in the middle and it has this yellow background color, right? So let's assume that what we might want to do is we might want to take control of that, and we can say on a navigation page, we can put a title view inside of here, and the title view, we can then do whatever we like in here, right? So I can say, okay, well, let's go and grab a label with the text of hello. Well, actually, let's just call it what it is, which is, it's actually the search page. Okay, so we can say search, and I think there we are, right? So now it's basically put that in here. Yeah, so you can do whatever you want, right? So if I wanted to put an image inside of here, I don't know, what do we got? Well, let's just put the search image in, right? That is the worst spelling of source I've ever seen. Oh, of course, it's a content view, right? So what I might do is I could do this, right? I could say, hey, let's go and create a stack layout, which has an orientation of horizontal. There we are, right? And so therefore I've created this here. Or what I could do in my case, this probably has some pretty strong requirements for, say, the font size, right? And we also want it to have a horizontal options of center and perhaps a vertical options of center. All right, so we'll get rid of that image. We'll get rid of that stack layout. Oops, get rid of that stack layout. Right, and so now we can see that we could adjust that. We could put whatever fonts and whatever colors we want. So I could say, hey, let's make it bold. Okay, put that there. Of course, I can use custom fonts for this as well. So that's one way you can do it. Now, you might notice that its margins a little bit off. So we could, for example, say, let's adjust the margins. Right, to say bring it in 100 from the left, probably a little bit far. I don't know, let's just say 80, whatever, right? Cool. And we could also add a background color here, but what you can do is the easiest way really to change the background color is to come in and create a style for it. So I gotta. Okay. So in my app XAML CS, in my resource directory, right, I can set up a style which is targeting my navigation page. Right, so it's an implicit style, which means it's going to go for all navigation pages, and it's just like a normal style. So I can say, let's set its bar background color, right? And we'll give it that value of that yellow that they're using. Right, so which I think is this yellow here. All right, and this, sorry, I'm sort of that in there. And I might also say my bar text color is got a value of black, right? And of course, if I wanted to theme this, I would put those into other resources. Doesn't look very black. I wonder if that's because what that is. I wonder if it goes over top of that. Who knows? It's interesting. It could actually, just because I haven't specified the text. What happens if I say the text color is black here? Here we go. All right, so maybe I don't want that in my app XAML. Okay, so it looks pretty naff in isolation, but when you think about what we're trying to do here, probably makes a bit more sense. In fact, that's maybe not even black. Anyway, whatever. Let's go and have a look at this top section here. Okay, so we'll do this your book section. Okay, so what I would do here is I would say this is going to be a grid here. At the moment, let's just put a box view in. Right. And it's actually the same color, right? But it's got a gradient on it. Right. So that is in row 0 there. Right. And what we're going to have is we're going to have a list view in row 1. All right. But let's think about how we're going to design this top section here. So with this top section, what I am thinking is we have a grid. Everything good starts with a grid. Actually not true, but grids are pretty awesome. We'll have one row here. Sorry, one column here. We'll have a column here, which is auto-sized, right? So, or star size, so as it takes up all of the available space. And then we'll have an auto column over here. So basically a row with 3 columns. Sorry, a grid with 3 columns and 1 row. Okay, so let me move this over here. Get out of the way. Okay. Put this in. Okay, so grid dot column definitions. 3 columns. First column, we're going to give it a width of auto, okay, which means it's going to adjust to its size. The second column is going to have a width of star. That means it's going to take up all the available space, basically. And then we're going to have a third column, which has another and we're going to have a width of auto here as well. So that's where our pencil's going to go. All right, cool. So into this, let's go and put ourselves an image, right? We'll start off with that first of all. So that would be a source of look extremely loud, okay, which we created a resource here called book extremely loud. Okay, there we are. We've got ourselves an image. We probably want to bring that puppy in a little bit. Okay, so let's, I don't know, give it a margin of 10 maybe. Beautiful. You notice it's changing colors here all the time. That's what Debug Rainbows is doing for me. Each time I save here and it refreshes the screen, it's actually going through and assigning different colors. We'll turn it off in a second so we can see the actual effect. Okay, that'll do for the moment. And then what we're going to have is inside of this middle row here, let's have a stack layout that goes down the page, and then we'll have 3 labels inside of there. So we'll have a stack layout, grid dot column equals 1. And then we're going to have a label. And for the moment, let's just put our text in here. So the first thing is your book. The second label. Okay, so the second label. So you can see where that Debug Rainbows is showing us where it's going to be. So this is where we have extremely loud and incredibly close. We might want to add that in as a property on our view model for the swap book, maybe. And here we've got our text, which is Jonathan Safran Boer. I'm sure I pronounced very terribly. Okay, cool. So now we've got those three in there. If I just turn this to false, this debug rainbows, we should see it as it's actually going to appear. Okay, so in our case, we might want to have, say, a box view in the background. Which has a color of, turns out it's the same yellow as this one. Oops, except we don't want it just on the first grid, or first column. We want to say it has a column dot column span of 3. Okay, so it goes all the way across the top. Beautiful. All right, and then what do we want? We want to have an image. Our source is pencil in grid row. Man, I don't even know my rows and my columns. Grid column 2. We get our pencil inside of there. So this actually probably wants to go up. So we'll say the vertical options for this. We'll put this up here. You should still be able to see that. I've actually got a special scene just for Android. There we are. So we can see it over here. But it's probably easier if I show you instead of swapping between scenes as I'm building this up. Let's just do it in this desktop one. Okay, so vertical options of start. Okay, that's going to put it at the start. We'll give it a, and also this here, this stack layout, we would want to say vertical options of, I'm guessing center that stuff. Now here's another thing as well. We can adjust the spacing between the items because by default, we have spacing between these different values. So if I say spacing of 0, that sort of swings it in. Hey, Rafferty FL, thanks so much for the follow. Appreciate it. Hey, friends. Hi, Clinton. And, oh, wait on. I'm trying to be a good boy. Did I miss some people? Maybe I did. I don't know. Let's put in a thanks here for Rafferty FL. Oh, awesome. All right. Hey, Clinton, what are we doing? What hacks are we doing today? We're hacking up this one. We spoke about this at a pub the other day about how we could possibly achieve this. And I mentioned to you that I'd have to do some crazy stuff with probably getting the view cell and passing it into the view model so that it can update. I think we found a way around that, but we're just early days yet. We're just constructing the top of the page. We haven't even got to the list view. We have created our view model already. And actually, I thinking about you, Clinton, made me create a button that we're going to press quite a bit today. And here is what it is. Let me show you so our book is, well, actually our book is, our observable object here. It has a title and author. It has a cover image. It has an accent color. Now I can almost feel you doing this, Clinton, because this is like a view sort of derived thing, right? That's in my essentially my view model. We're going to go with it for the moment until we think of a better way of doing it. Yeah, like if you knew Clinton, or if you know Clinton, he's a big MVVM guy, and he gets really angry when you start breaking the rules. So anyway, maybe later on, Clinton, we can talk about how to do that. Oh, what is this? So angry, he throws money. What is that? I don't know what that is, Clinton, but I feel it's you throwing money. I'm going to look up what this is later on. It's some emotes or something. See, I'm still pretty new to this whole streaming thing. Did a mega cheer. Mega cheer food fight. Okay, cool. Also, JB Ravba. God, I'm so terrible at pronouncing names. So did I see this shared transitions? Yeah, I did actually. I saw that there was an update to it the other day, right? And this is what I'm hoping to use in order to do the transitions between them, between those two sort of pages that we have inside of there. So yeah, once we get to that second page, I'm going to try and use that. Never used it before, so we'll see how that goes. Beautiful. All right, let's. I should probably do a little bit of styling on this bad boy, and I'm food fight. Is that what it's about? Is it about creating a food fight? That's what it is. Awesome. Here, can I throw some things? I don't know if I can. Oh, well, maybe I can. I don't know. Let's fight. Fight pizza. Oh, I don't have. Maybe I don't have fight pizzas. Ah, fantastic. Oh, well, you guys have your fight pizza, while I go ahead and set up some things here. Okay, let me copy that text color from Adobe XD. Just sort of copying a couple. I've got Adobe XD over here, and I'm just gonna copy a few values. So so the second top two things are in bold. Okay. And this one is in a peachy color. Peachy color. Now, of course, I'm going to translate all of this stuff into styles a little bit later on as well. Not going to work, is it? All right, so that's looking better. And then under this one here, we'll just add some text color here. That just gives us a view for what it might look like. Copy that from XD. All right, something like that. And this one here actually might have a bit of opacity as well, right? So if you have a look, let's just throw a bit of opacity in there. All right, that's looking okie dokie. That pencil's in the wrong spot, isn't it? Let's go and add some margin into that bad boy. 0, 10. All right. There, that's about right. Okay, now, what do we want to do? Do we want to do our list view first, or do we want to play around with this background gradient and create that gradient in SkiSharp? Otherwise, we can get our list view. We can start designing that. Choose your own adventure. Actually, you know what else we should do? We should bring in all the bits that we need. So around the image, you'll notice in the actual design, they have drop shadows as well. So the best place I know to do drop shadows is with another of Steven's things, which is called our pancake view. So I'm going to add that in as well, because I just know we're going to need that. And we're also going to use SkiSharp as well. So while I've got the project stopped, I may as well bring those in. Pancakes. There's not too many things called pancake in NuGet. Bring in the pancakes. Nom nom. All right. And we're also going to need SkiSharp forms. Yeah. Why don't we do this? Why don't we, once we get this in, why don't we go and set up our view model, or set up our binding, and then we'll add these cells in, okay? Because once we have like pancake view in, we can do this drop shadow on here, and we'll do the gradient a little bit later on. Even though that's really, a key part of the challenge. But I suppose for anyone who is, getting started with Xamarin.Forms, it's good to know how we set up things like list views. Okay, so I'm gonna do something a little bit cheeky. Come to our main page here, right? And let's do this. Let's add a namespace in to our. I don't normally do it this way, but let's just see what happens. I think I can do this, right? I think I can do this, and I can say, hey, bring in the view model. And then I can say for my page, right, I want it to have a binding context. Right, and then I can say, hey, my binding context is going to be from my view models, books view model. I think I can do that, right? And if I do that, let's run this up. Let's see. It's going to allow me to then, I think it will give strong typing to my view models, to my bindings, I think. Let me run this. It's definitely coffee time. Come on, deployment. We've got a button for this as well.
Sometimes things don't work.
Cool. Sometimes things don't work. Deployment failed. Oh, I think we're out of space. All right, fair enough. If you think you're out of space. Get the Xamarin.Forms. Wow. Oh. See if that will work. Yep. We just needed more space. Cool. Okay, so we have our binding context set up. We've got our title view, got our toolbar, blah, blah, blah. This here is, this grid here is that first row. So what we want to do is we're going to set up a list view inside of here, right? So let's say I have a list view, give it a name. Pretty sure we're going to be accessing this in code. Books list view. Cool name, huh? Let's put this in grid row 1. So technically speaking, it could be in here. If I turn my debug rainbows on, I can find out, right? There we go. Holy moly. Clinton shared. Have you started another food fight? No. Awesome. Thank you, Clinton. Thank you so much. There's another food fight underway. I gotta put this in. I've never had food fights on a stream before. So yeah, everyone throw food at each other. That looks awesome. Okay, so I think I should say item source binding. Yeah. It does look awesome with the emotes. I can see it over here on my screen over here. Okay, cool. Because I set the binding context, I get some strong typing for my item source. Okay, cool. 25 peeps. If you're out there and you got gifted a food fight from Clinton, you should be throwing it at him. That's what I say. Buff. What is a buff? Click the face in the chat and select it. See, I don't get it. Very sad. All I can do is throw Pikachus at you. Berry floss. Nice. All right. So I've got a list view, right? And you can see the list view has 3 items in it. Awesome. Just what I always needed. But we need these rows to be bigger. So let's set a row height of like 200. Okay, beautiful. Okay. What I like to do in focus. Yeah, it's really hard to focus, Clinton, when you're throwing money around so much. What I like to do in Adobe XD, right, is basically you can grab these guidelines, right? So you can sort of bring these down. You can say, okay, put a guideline there and then put another guideline down here. And it will effectively show you, you see how big it is between those. So that's how you can work out it's 200 between there and there. All right, so I got those there. Now, of course, what it's really doing at the moment is it's really just grabbing. It's doing a toString on the object because I haven't said what the cell should contain. So it actually just outputs the class name. But I can see that I've got 3 rows in there. 1, 2, 3 rows, which is how many objects I have in my view model. Let's set our separator visibility to none because they don't have any separators in there. Debug Rainbows is doing some crazy stuff in the background. Let's set up. My tummy just rumbled. It must be almost time for me to have a snack break. List view in there. So I should be able to say list view dot item template and set up a data template for this. And then for the moment, let's just do this straight in line. So if I say I want a grid, and we'll say the grid background color is equal to, and then I should be able to bind this. Maybe. I thought I could say accent color. Specify cast is not valid. I bet you that no, that should be right. String, it's a string. Oh, wait on. Don't we have to say this is a view cell? That's what we need to do. I thought I'd given the wrong data type to the accent color. There we are. And there's our super pretty colors. Okay, cool. Okay, all right, here's another thing, right? See this bar in between here? This bar in between here is because grids by default have, I don't know why they have this, right? So grid dot row spacing. If I say row spacing is 0, it's going to get rid of that, right? So that's cool, right? But I never have a row spacing in my grids. So again, I turn to our good old app.xaml, right? So I'll just save this, just show you that this works. Right, so we've got this space here. I set up an implicit style for my grids. So for a grid, and I say, you know what? I always want row spacing for all of my grids, unless I override it to have a value of 0. Because that's what you want. Right? And you probably want the same thing for column spacing as well. Right, and so if I go and apply that, it's now applies it to all grids, you know, and if I had like 20 in there, would add 20 there. Cool. Yeah, exactly. So I'm the same dragon. Even with stack layouts, right? So stack layouts. Oh yeah, here's an example, right? If we come back here and have a look, we had a stack layout here somewhere. Right, inside of this grid here, right? I had a stack layout with a spacing of 0, right? If I didn't put that in, these would all be spaced out, all super weird, right? So, so yeah, pretty much I find that the spacing is rarely what I'm after. So I could do this, right? I could say, hey, target type of a stack layout. Property. What's that font size, by the way? Is that all right? Property of spacing, value equals 0. And so that should close it up for me. Done. Super awesome. So now I can get rid of that, right? And normally if I actually want some spacing in there, I have a pretty explicit value that I'm going to work with. Okay, cool. So now we got ourselves a view cell. So let's have a look at the design again and see how we're going to construct one of these view cells. All right. Here's a view cell. I think it's fair to say that what we're after here is 2 columns. This one's going to be a fixed size. This one's going to take up whatever space we have available. We could do this a couple of ways. We could either do a couple of rows in here. In fact, I'm going to say yes, we want a couple of rows in here. And the reason I'm going to say that is because otherwise it's going to be hard for us to align this and this in their right space. But if I do it with 2 rows, then it'll be much easier for me to set this up. Okay, so it's actually going to be a grid with 2 rows, 2 columns, but this is going to span 2 rows. Sound reasonable? Or why not? By the way, if anyone's, if ever you're watching one of these challenges, stack layout in the bottom row, probably a stack layout. There's these guidance, right? There was a talk by Jason Smith, Xamarin.Forms performance tips. Xamarin.Forms performance. This is a talk he did at Evolve, which, if you haven't seen this before and you're doing Xamarin.Forms, it still applies pretty much now, right? So for those of you who don't know Jason Smith, he's left, unfortunately. He was like the lead architect of Xamarin.Forms, and he basically has a whole bunch of tips for how you get the best performance out of it, which he spoke about a few years ago. But they all pretty much stand true still. So one of these is choosing the correct layout, right? So let me move that out of the way. And in fact, just in case somebody wants to have a look at it, that's the URL for it. Somewhere in here, I think they've changed the... Okay, so there's some really important things here. Like when you're using a grid, trying to make sure as few rows are set to auto as possible, right? But there used to be something in here that says, don't use a grid when a stack layout will do. And also don't use a stack layout when you're trying to do a grid. Maybe it's covered up here a little bit more. Yeah, so essentially, that's a really good resource to have a look at. Stack layout will never do. Well, this is what I'm thinking. As Gutterfest said, Gutterfest, I love your videos and streams. Thanks, Gutterfest. Appreciate it. So yeah, follow along and yeah, awesome. Icon text horizontal alignment. So I would. This is what I'm going to go with, well, unless anyone's got a better idea. Grid. Okay, with with multiple columns and multiple rows. I'm going to use a horizontal stack layout for that. Vertical stack layout, sorry, for that. So I have 2 labels, vertical stack layout. Here, I'll probably go a horizontal stack layout, right? Because stack layouts are cheaper than grids. Even though R2 says says that stack layouts should never be used.
It's R2, so you can't argue with it.
And you can't argue with R2, but I'm going to. I'm going to say stack layouts have their place. It's just not very common. Anyway, let's go with that. We can work out whether it works or not, and we can fix it. Where am I? Where am I? Here I am. Okay, cool. And here's my window. Okay, so we said, let's just make sure you can see that above my noggin. So we're going to have a grid.row definitions. We're going to have 2 rows. And the height of these, let me star. Because we're going to split that, right? Cool. And then we're going to have 2 columns. You know what would be a really good addition to debug layouts, debug rainbows, would be if it finds a grid and there's rows and columns defined, but there is no content in there, inject a box view in there. That'd be pretty cool. Anyway. So we're going to have 2 columns. The first column is going to be star width, right? Now here's where there's a slight optimization, right? So you could do this, right? And you could say width equals auto, right? So what we're effectively doing there is we're saying, yeah, you know, we've got this here. We've got two rows. They're evenly spaced. And then we've got a column which is auto sized, right? So the first column is going to take up as much space as it needs. The second one's going to be auto sized, but in this case, it's cheaper or less expensive maybe to actually go and specify a particular size here. And normally it wouldn't matter that much, but I'd argue for list views and things like that, it has to do a lot of measuring otherwise. So we could actually just go and give this a value. Let's just try it out and we'll see what goes down. All right, cool. Now let's throw some things in. So here we want to bind this. I don't know why my binding isn't working. It should be telling me. Look. Yeah, so there's that. Okay. And we'll give this a margin. Okay, cool. And then we can put another label beneath it. And we can say the next one is the author. Cool. Okay. I'll do some styles a little bit later on. So font attributes of bold, for example. The title, beautiful. Okay. And we can also have the bottom section down the bottom here as well. So we can say, okay, Dragon, you think the IntelliSense is based on the binding context of the page. Yep, which is the books view, which has a collection inside of it. But okay, so the binding context when I'm down here is not that. It's an individual book. So what you're telling me then is up here, my IntelliSense is still working, right? Let's just find out. Banana. Let's see if this works. No, it didn't work. I just wanted to see if it worked. Yeah, you're right. Yep. I was hoping it'd be smart enough to work that out, but it's not. Yeah, okay. So yeah, I'm on my own here. Okay, author, cool. What else we want? I want a stack layout. We said we'd do a stack layout orientation horizontal. And we would have, that's just for the moment, because we don't have any author images at the moment. Sorry, any user images. So we'll say width request of 20, height request of 20, a radius of 10. And this stack layout is going in grid row 1. That didn't work well. Oh, debug, hang on. Debug Rainbows didn't catch that for me. Didn't Debug Rainbows be doing that? This is where it doesn't propagate down the path, right? I think we found this in a previous one. I thought it was fixed. Let me set the debug rainbows. I set it up at the page level. Can. All right, okay, fair enough. These near matter. In our case, what we're going to do is we're just going to say, let's make this red. Wish. Okay, put on the data template view cell. Yep, cool. I still don't think it's, well, let me get rid of this color here. No, it doesn't work on the view cell. I bet you if I did it on this grid, it would work. Yeah, it works on this grid. Or not. So it works on the grid. Oops, sorry, I just hit the microphone. I'm sure if Stephen watches this later on, he'll be like, what are you doing, you clown? Anyway. That's why I should use his NuGet a little bit more. Okay, cool. Anyway, we can, it looks a mess right at the moment, but the idea is it's showing us everything, right? So it's, for example, it's showing us that our box view is occupying some really weird space here, right? So we want to say horizontal options, start. Actually, no, what have I, no, it's actually vertical options, start. Right. So that's interesting, right? So that's that round thing there is my box view, which is way too small. But also it's not actually the box view that's occupying that space, right? The thing that's occupying that space is the stack layout. So I probably also want to say something like vertical options of center for the stack layout and horizontal, if I could spell, probably doesn't matter actually, horizontal options of start. Okay, and so therefore it's going to be a lot nicer there. Beautiful. Now we didn't have any text here. I'm going to have some text label. So what I'm going to do, the idea of this is that I'm like earnest here. At the moment while we're just laying this out. Okay, so we can see where that's going. We can say, hey, let's center that vertically. Okay, and that's going to center it vertically within the stack layout. Now, here's an example where I might want spacing, right? Or spacing between the elements. I might say, you know what? I actually want to have spacing here of 10 between those. And maybe on my, this here, I want a margin of 20. Okay. How's that wrapping? Vertical options of that, horizontal options of that. Is it because of the size of this? Yes, it is. Okay, cool. Well, that's good to know. Okay, it's looking pretty messy at the moment, but that's cool. Now we can see that this stack layout here has got some extra space around it as well. So we'll say, you know what? Vertical options, we're going to center it within that cell. Beautiful. Okay. Let's just turn those rainbows off for a second. Okay. Ooh. Cool. All right. Let's add some images in, shall we? Let's have a look at our design first of all. Okay, looking pretty messy at the moment, but we'll get there. I'll just adjust some of these font sizes to start off with. Of course, you should never do this, right? You should never just go and manually just inject all these sizes in, because that's a bad idea. But I'm going to do it.
Shame. Shame. Shame.
How many times am I going to hit that button today? All right, let's go and put the book on the other side. Okay, so we're going to bind it to cover image, maybe is what I called it. Yep. Okay, clearly that's in the wrong, needs to be in grid column 1. And it needs to span 2 rows. Beautiful. And it could probably do with a little bit of margin as well. Okay. So now what we have is we've got a little bit of a challenge here, right? So if I say this is auto-sized, that's going to space that out a little bit nicer. Has a little bit more rendering overhead. I mean, it's minimal. We could do this, right? We could actually sort of say, let's be very, very explicit about it. And we could say, I want this image to be of a particular size. Or we could just leave that as auto. It's fine either way. Aspect fill. Yeah, we don't want fill because fill will, you'd want fit if anything, because otherwise it's going to crop the image. I think fit's better. But yeah, we could do that, and we could sort of set an explicit size as well. Anyway, let's go with that one for the moment. What I want to do is we've got our pancake views, right? We added in pancake view. Let's add some drop shadows. So let's go and say pancake equals Why you not like me? Oh God. No way I'm going to guess that namespace. All right. Time to Google. So another of Stevens. Let's go have a look. Pancake view. I know my IntelliSense screwing up. Let's not call this yummy. Let's just copy that. Is that right? Okay, what I'm hoping to do here is put a pancake view around this image because we want to drop shadow, yeah? Which means that the pancake view is going to have the grids and probably the margins. Okay, and we should be able to say something shadow. Yeah, shadow. That's weird. That's weird. You can't, oh, wow. Sorry about that. You can't see it. Interesting. What's going on there? There's an elevation property, right? So let's say our elevation's like 10. I wonder if this is... Ooh. What's it asking for here? Oh. This is not right. This is not right here. We're saying this has a row span of 2. It doesn't. It has a column span of 2. No, it doesn't. It does have a row span of 2. It's in column 1. That's hilarious. All right. Why is that not doing its thing? I wonder if it's because we're not positioning this. Nope. Margins 20. Oh. So I think this is... This here is saying margin of 20. What would happen if I do this? Yeah. There we go. I was basically... Actually, I wonder, hang on. Let's just try this. Let's see if debug rainbows would have saved us, right? Because I turned debug rainbows off, and this I think would show us, yeah, this would show us that the pancake view is actually occupying all of that space. So it wasn't being constrained, which is why when we say this, and then we say this, we end up with the right values. There we are. See, pancake debug view would have saved us. debug rainbows. Let's have a look at that elevation. Too much. 10. 10's good. 10's good. We'll go with 10. Now I feel that that's a bit better layout. Okay. Now we also want to get a pancake view around this top one up here as well. Let me move this over here and try not get it in the way. So right up here we have a image here. We'll get rid of that and that. Set the margin to 10. Get rid of the margin out of here. What happens if we get rid of those? I feel like it just added a pancake view onto everything. Pancakes all the way down. Hang on. In fact, where have I set my pancake view? Hang on. Not my pancake view, my debug rainbow. Hey, we're back. We're back. Stream went bad for a second. We're back. We're back. Whoop, whoop. Wait on. Celebrate. All right, cool. Now, what was I looking at? I was looking at... Why have we got these... What I'm just looking at the moment is I'm looking at... Around here, we've got these debug rainbows on. But... I actually don't set them. That's super weird. Is it true by default? I don't think I have them at the page level anymore, do I? Does it turn it on? Maybe it turns it on by default. Who knows? Anyway, that got rid of them. That's good. We're having a look to see this this drop shadow here. Drop shadow, drop shadow. We're looking at this element right here. Maybe an elevation of 20 looks better. Let's have a look at our reference. Now they're pretty subtle. I'd say they're about right where they are. Beautiful. Okie dokie. So where are we now? I think we're now at a point. Hey, bot256, botto256, thanks for the follow. And welcome. Welcome, welcome. I gotta come in here. Hope I didn't miss anyone. So, no, you're bot 0, I think. 256. Awesome. Appreciate it. Now, if you're wondering what we're doing, we're basically having a look at this UI layout and we're replicating this in Xamarin.Forms. Okay. And so that's something we want to do. So at the moment, we've kind of got some of our cells in place here. It's just about time we started doing some gradient backgrounds, right? And so animating those as we move through these cells here. But the basic layout is kind of cool. I'm going to have a quick toilet stop, I think. Going powder my nose. So why don't we have a break for 5 minutes? If you leave, you get banned. No, not really. We'll have a break for 5 minutes. And then when we come back, let's actually work on these gradients. Okay, sound good? Go get your snacks. Exactly. I'm going to get some snacks. Nobody leave. All right, I'm going to put a timer on. I'm going to put a timer on, and I'll see you when we get back. My timer. All right. I'll see you in 5. All right, so you're having fun. That's good. All right. Just wait 30 seconds. Watch out, he's back. All right, let's do this thing. Cool. So what's next? We're now looking at gradients. Okay, the first gradient, let's tackle this one up here. So a nice static one. That one doesn't change as we scroll through here. It just stays constant. So it's got two color lines. We'll do that one first of all. So that's actually in our main page, right? So let's come up here, and what we'll do is we'll say at the moment where we have this box view here, I feel this font might be a bit small. There we are. That might be a bit better. Okay, cool. Where we got this box view here where we're just setting the specific color. Instead, let's change that to use skier sharp. Get this out of the way here. So we're going to have a namespace in for skier. Say that equals skier sharp forms. Beautiful. Alrighty, and we'll come down here, we'll get this box view and we'll say, no, we're going to use a skier canvas in here. We'll give this a pink surface, create ourselves an event for that. It will need to span 3 columns as well. Beautiful. Get rid of that box view. So now, if we put a definition on this. Beautiful. Okay, so if we do this now, if we run this now, we should just have a blank background. Let's just see if that's the case. Yep, we got a blank background. Cool. So let's paint this with skier. Now, there's a bit of skier here. I can never remember this stuff, so let's go skier sharp. Skier sharp graphics and Xamarin.Forms. What I'm looking for here is just this little bit of code. This bit here. Just to get our various elements here. Okay, cool. So, oops, that's not what we're after. Okie dokie. Now this isn't going to work while we run, unfortunately. We'll get that out of the way and we'll say, yep, let's say we get our skier sharp. Change that to args. Add in our using. Okay, cool. So now what we want to do is we kind of just want to say canvas dot, and we're going to fill in the whole space. So we can say draw a rect, and we should be able to get the info.rect, which should tell us, which should basically mean it's going to fill the entire space. And we need a pane object. So we don't want to create the pane object every time. because that will incur some cost. Hang on a second. Sorry, it was just my wife coming in, asking me to make her a coffee. So let's call this our background paint object. And we'll say, terrible name for it. Jimmy snack time. She did. We got this great coffee machine, but she doesn't know how to use it. In fact, I think she just doesn't want to know how to use it. Okay. How do people feel? Here's a quick question for you. How do people feel about fields with underscores? I feel that's just a hangover for me being old. Okay, so is this another you feel okay about it? Asterisk says shame.
Shame.
I want to see how many times I get to click that button today. Okay, so I want to get the color of this object. So it's actually going to be, where's my design here? Actually just going to be this color here, isn't it? Oh, that's not the right color. It's that color. Oh, I've changed the opacity on that. Why I did that. Okay. So let's say color from hex. This to SK paint, SK color. Okay, which is an extension method. Okay, cool. So now I should just be able to say, hey, go and paint this with the background paint. Oops. And I reckon we should be back where we were. In terms of, we got that yellow background. So Dragon, you don't use underscores anymore. Just do lowercase to start. Yeah. Okay, cool. Right, so now we've got a skier painting the background there. So now what we want to do is we kind of want to say, let's draw ourselves a couple of paths on top of there. So once we've drawn that, we get this out of the way. Now it's not really a gradient. If we have a look at what it kind of is, it's kind of what I'm thinking here is I can basically just draw a couple of triangles here like this. You know, it's not quite a triangle, is it? So for that color and then one for this color here. Okay. So it's actually sort of two colors. So, so this would be for like the light color. So I could say using a path. So good idea to put in a using statement so it cleans itself up. Get myself a path. And then we can say, okay, let's start off at 0, 0. Then let's go .move to. You want to do that? Okay, forgot my brackets. There we go. Cool. So then I say path line 2, all right? And this is where I've got to sort of guess some values and guess what algorithm we use. I'm going to pretty much say we're going to go across a little bit over half of the cell, about 60% of the cell, and then come down to here at about 20, 30% of the cell, and then sort of draw it around like that. So we'll say, let's go to, on the x-axis, we'll go info.width times 0.6, a little bit over halfway, 0.7 maybe, and 0. And then, so that's basically said, give my cell, start here. I'm drawing over to, or creating a path over to here. Then I'm going to create a path down to here. And then I'll bring it here and then close it up and then render that. That's the idea. So we'll say line 2, info.width times 0.2. And the y-axis is going to be the height. Then we'll go a path, line to 0x and info.height. And then I think we can just close it. Okay. And then we could say, let's go and draw that path. And we say, I'm going to draw that path and I need a paint object. Right, so this is kind of like my shadow color that I would have here. So let's do this. Let's create ourselves a color object. Line 42 says lane 2. You're the human compiler, Dragon. Thank you. All right, cool. So this is going to be like my, in fact, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to say, this is my accent color. I have an accent color. I'll have an accent dark color. And I'll have an accent extra dark. Right. So the idea then is what I'll do here is I'll set this up to say accent color equals, and we'll grab this stuff is equal to that. Okay. And then what we'll do is we'll say, now this is where it gets interesting, right? So I could say accent dark color. And what I could do is I could say, let's get this. And then I could say with luminosity, right? So this is one way you can darken things. I could say, I want to get a luminosity of the color you know what I'm going to do here? I'm going to create myself a color object. This will be easier. I need to create a method, I think. Okay. Now I can say color dot. I need to create a SK color from hex because I don't think there is one. Yeah. There's no from hex. So that's something I want to do. Hang on. Things to do. SK color should have a from hex. Yeah, so Dragon, you can do a color from hex to SK color. Yep. The problem with that, well, there's no problem with that. That's kind of exactly what I'm doing right here. But in my case, what I want to do is I want to say I don't have to repeat this 3 times. You know what I mean? So now I can say with luminosity, because I want to say get the color luminosity. And then I just want to subtract a value from it. All right, so luminosity goes from 0 to 1. So if we subtract like 0.1 from it, it should make it darker. And then I can 2SK color that bad boy. Gonna work? Yeah, right. So that will darken the color a little bit. And then what I can do is I can say my extra dark color, I subtract even more color off it, or more luminosity off it. Right, because there's two shades. So now theoretically, I would probably want to create another couple of paint objects here as well. This one, I'm going to rename this to accent paint. So in this case, it probably doesn't matter, I don't think, because I'm kind of just drawing one thing, but you don't want to be creating paints all over the time. Matthias, welcome. Hi, how you doing? Welcome. If you're wondering what we're doing, just in case anyone's unsure of what we're doing, like me, we're basically we're reproducing this UI. At the moment, we're just starting to play around with these gradients here. So yeah, welcome. Thanks for joining us. Okay, so now I'm going to create these paint objects. It's a little bit of setup, but anyway. So we'll say dark paint equals a new SK paint. Color is accent dark paint, dark color. Okay, and then we're back. Sorry. Did I mention I live in Australia and the internet here sucks? So hopefully we're back. I think we're back. Yeah. Cool. Okay, so what we're doing is we're basically just creating pre-creating some paint objects. And from here, what we're going to do is we're going to say, let's paint this one with our, we back. Awesome. With our accent dark paint. So that should draw us our first accent color. Let's see if that works. So Matthias, sorry, it dropped out when you joined. Okay, cool. We can see it there. If you look really carefully, you can see it there. Okay. And then what we want to do is we want to add a second one as well. So pretty much the same deal, right? Just going to adjust some values. So with this one, let's have a look. So this one is probably a third of the way across. And it's going up the side here to about halfway, a little bit over halfway. So we could say move to 0, 0. We could say let's go across the width times, we said it was about a third, right? So let's just 33. We can then get rid of that line because what we want to do is we want to say go to X0. So in other words, what we're doing is we're saying on a cell, we're coming across 33%. And then we're going to draw this to like halfway, a little bit over halfway there, and then close that up. So we'll say info height. Times 0.6, a little bit over halfway. Then close the path, and then we'll draw this with accent extra dark paint. Let's see what that looks like. So this becomes I suppose a place where you're going to make a decision on, find out if it works first of all. Yeah, look. So there is actually the two colors there, right? So maybe we want to darken this one up a little bit more. Let's say -3. Now the problem is, here's the issue. The issue is that what we're doing is we're adjusting the luminosity, but already that was quite luminous. So we could either use an algorithmic approach to adjusting colors, or we could actually explicitly have 3 colors which we specify. I think at the moment we'll just go for using an algorithm to do it. It's probably a bit dark, I think. But yeah, you can see that's basically got that in there. And then if we don't like the effect, we can always change it later on. All right, sound good? Everyone good? I'm still having my snack here. All right. So there we go. That's probably not too far off. Yep. Maybe we should shrink this up a bit. Let's shrink it up a little bit. It's a little bit high. So we should be able to onto our main page, and let's make this like 80 high. There we are. That looks a bit better. Beautiful. All right. So now we're at a point where we want to do the same thing in these cells. Okay. What that's gonna mean is it's gonna mean we want to move that cell out into its own view cell. Okay, so its own class, because we're going to write some code behind it. So let's just do the simple approach first of all. We'll basically copy what we have here. I suppose technically I could create a control out of it, but let's not bother for the moment. We can refactor that. Instead, let's just do the same trick on a view cell. Okay. And then what we can do is we can talk about animating it. Okay, step 1, let's abstract it into a view cell. So I'm going to create myself a folder here. Cells, maybe. we'll go and we'll add in, actually add a new item. I think we have a template for this. Yeah, a view cell, right? So a view cell, we'll call this, what do you think? Book cell, maybe? Book cell, is that a good name? Yeah, sure, why not? Book view cell, perhaps. So Dragon says you couldn't just put a canvas view around the template and hook it into the same paint surface event. Well, I think not, right? Because it's a little bit more complex, I think, right? Because we're going to need code, right, to be able to change those based on the position of them, right? So really, I'd like to abstract the code behind a particular cell for it. You know what I mean? So because each cell is going to have different values. That's why I'm sort of putting the cell out into its own entity. I suppose if we wanted them to all have the same value, we could do that. Yeah, absolutely. But what we should be able to do here, right? Sorry, I'm just eating a mandarin as we're talking. Let's grab all of this stuff. Yeah, it gets weird when you start animating it. Absolutely. Let's grab all of this stuff. This grid. So this grid, all of the stuff in here is now going to be inside of our view cell. And I'm sure lots of stuff will break. We need a pancake view. XML NS. Like that. Still gonna have binding. That should still work, right? Got our pancake view. So I think now everything is good here. All right. Now what we want to do is inside of that cell, we want to do the same sort of drawing thing. So I'm going to actually just, for the moment, until we abstract it out, I generally like to just get it working and then refactor it once I know what I need to do with it. So I'm going to basically copy this code. This is, wait on.
Shame. Shame.
That's my new favorite button, I reckon. It's because I write so much terrible code. So I'm going to use Skier Sharp here. Right. Now, so we're going to have a color and they're going to have our paint objects inside of here. For the moment, let's just get rid of this background here. Okay. And let's put a skier canvas in there instead. Add the skier namespace? I didn't. And this is going to want to go across 2 rows because this is within this grid. And grid.columns, column span of 2, row span of 2. give this a name. Cell background. We will give this a paint method. All right. That should be good. I don't know whether we need to. Probably don't need that. We'll find out. Okay, cool. So now in our cell, we've got this thing to redraw the background canvas. So the challenge now becomes, how do we know what our accent colors are? Well, it comes from our binding context, right? So what we could do, we can override No worries, Dragon. Thank you so much for joining us. And yeah, have a good night's sleep. Hope your headache gets better. And yeah, I'll be sure to check this out. Check this in once we've finished. Cool. Okay. Take care, Dragon.
Today we're gonna code lots with Mr. Kim.
Anonymous 8155. Thanks so much for the follow. Let's put you in here. (8155). Awesome follow action. Beautiful. Okay, so our binding context, right? So in our binding context, this is where we're going to basically say, if we have a binding context, yeah. If we have a binding context, so if we're not equal to null, not equal to null, then what we're going to do is we're going to create our brushes, right? So again, we can. Oh, hi, INX Junior, welcome, and thanks for the nice words. Yeah, hope you're enjoying the stream. Feel free to ask any questions if you want. Yeah, don't feel shy. If you've got any ideas on how to do things as well, let me know. Beautiful. Okay, so we're going to use the same basic idea here. We're going to, when the binding context changes, right? So this means that our cell has a new value inside of it. Something else is being bound to this particular cell. What we're going to do is we're going to say, well, let's get the color, not a hard-coded color, but we can say our binding context. We have to cast this to a book. Okay, so it's going to be our book view model. I wonder if I should call that book view model. Anyway, brackets. Everyone needs more brackets because we had an accent color. Cool, right? So I say, okay, we'll go and get that accent color, right? And then we get that, we change it to an SK color for the accent color. We then say, we adjust the luminosity of these, create our pane objects. And then it's a matter of coming down to our painting surface, doing the same thing that we did here. Draw the background, draw two objects. All right, so we'll literally just grab this. Oops, except we're going to need to also grab this stuff. In fact, I'm just grabbing the whole method, right? Which is a really good sign that I need to refactor this. Let's clean up that using all this args. Beautiful. So theoretically now, we should have each of our cells should kind of look like the other one that we had. And then it should have the gradient. Unless I completely screwed up, which is not unheard of. See? Ayo. Okay. View cell must have a view. Okay, so I think what happened here is there, right? So I basically got this, I went and abstracted it out, but I never put it back in again, did I? So I need to add a namespace up here. XML cells equals cells. And then I should be able to say down here that my view cell, actually that is a view cell. Oops. So maybe I can just say cells book view cell. Let's try that. Cool. All right, they're too dark, but they're there, right? So each of our cells has this color. Way too dark. Let's adjust the luminosity of those puppies. So I'm going to say that is like 0.15, and we'll say this is 0.7. Excuse me, just having my coffee. That didn't work. Jams? What's a jams? Okay, I subtracted 0.7, not 0.07 off there. That's why I'm getting that. That's why I'm getting that. Beautiful. All right. So now what we need to do is we need to animate it, right? So this is the challenging part. So of course I wait to the end of the stream when I'm tired to go and try and tackle this, but we can do it because I've actually put a bit of thought into this, how we might achieve this, right? So we've got our cells there. We need to add some more rows actually in order to be able to scroll properly. But here's the theory, right? Now, I looked at a few different ways of doing this and I discussed it with R2. I also discussed it with Clinton about some ideas because I wanted to make sure that I had a bit of a strategy of how we could do it. So there's a few different ways that we could do this. One way, I'll tell you the ways that I chose and then threw away. One way that we could do it is we could effectively have a property on our view model. Right. So on in our view model for our book, where's that? Right. Because what we need to do is we need to be able to, one of the problems with Xamarin.Forms, one of the considerations is that with list views, you can access the item, but you can't access the actual cell, and the cells themselves recycle. So one approach that you could use is in here, we could actually have a property, right? So we could have like a public view cell, right? Or in our case, it would be a book view cell, right? Just put a getter and setter here. View cell, right? And then what we could do, I won't bother making that compile. What we could then do is we could say here where we're setting the binding context, right? This is where it's basically saying I'm assigning an item to this cell. I could say, in fact, let me come back here. Let me add that in, right? I could do this. I could say this binding context dot cell equals this. And that would allow me to access, or from my object, I could then go and access the actual view cell, right? And then I could call a method on that as the list scrolls. But that's really bad because it means that what we're doing is we're putting view specific stuff in our view model. So that's a really bad idea. All right. So that's one way you could do it. Here's another way you could do it. And that is instead, we could actually have our view cell listening to something which is saying, I'm scrolling, and then basically get its scroll position and then adjust the angle of these two different parts based on what's coming through. Okay. So that's the approach that we're going to go with, because it means that then I no longer have to have in my book class, I no longer have to have that property that I had in here. Okay. Now here's the other challenge that we have is that, oops, inside of our list view, we can know that items have appeared or disappeared, right? So did we give me, let's have a look. Let's see if we gave it a name. Their list view. Right, so we get the books list view, right? And we can certainly do this, right? We could say books list view dot. Now, there's an item appearing, there's an item disappearing. That is when an item comes onto the screen or leaves the screen. But there is no scroll position on this, right? There's a scroll to, which allows us to scroll a particular item on, but there's no actual value to tell us the scroll position. But ages ago, I actually wrote an effect which allows us to do that. And I knew it would come in handy one day. So check this out. GitHub.com. Hey, field parts. It's on NuGet. NuGet. Xamarin.Forms utils. There we go. So I wrote this puppy, I don't know, last year sometime. And what this does is it allows you to attach an effect. The documentation is terrible. Hang on. Let me do this. Okay, long story short, inside of here is an effect. And inside of this effect, okay, it's going to report the scroll position. Right, so what it does is it actually connects up to it, has a look at when the list view changes, and then raises notifications. Okay, so I'm going to just use this to be able to work out where our scroll position is. Right, so I'm going to add this NuGet in. Needs to go into all of the platforms. And like there's a few different ways of doing this. And in fact, I've got a live stream where I actually created this XF utils from last year. But the way most people do this when they need to get this scroll position is they subclass the list view and they create themselves like an extended list view class, which then reports the space. Now, I chose to write it as an effect because most of the time I don't care about the scroll position. So I don't want the extra overhead of it actually detecting that. So in the XF utils, what I can do is I can say, well, let's go and get an effect, right? And I can new up Xamarin.Forms utils dot effects dot scroll reporter effect, which is actually a pretty bad name actually, because it's a scroll list view reporter effect, right? And then I can go and I can add that effect, right? Or hook up to a method, right? It's got a method that says scroll changed, right? Which is going to tell me the Y position of the scroll. And I can go and attach this to my list view, right? Which is called what? Books list view dot effects dot add my effect. So now, theoretically, this is going to enable me to work out where we're scrolling to. All right, so I should be able to say, well, let's do this. See if it works. That would be a good first step. Scroll position args dot y. And so this is super useful, right? Now what I'll do is we'll see if this works. Let's get our view model. And what I'm going to do with my view model, because we don't have all the things that we need, I'm literally going to just add each book twice for the moment. Just so we have more rows. Okay. In fact, I'll add it 3 times. Now, hopefully what this is going to do then is we should see it actually outputting that scroll position. And that's going to be useful for us because we are going to go and tell the list view that it's changed scroll positions. The view cell is going to be able to listen to that and then adjust it accordingly. Hopefully that makes sense, what we're trying to do there. So let me know if you got questions. Because I actually did a proof of concept using some of the other approaches. The other approaches work. It's just really nasty when you have a view model hooking into a view.
Sometimes things don't work.
There's not enough storage. Oh man. Time to get rid of. Can I just resize these? Probably can. Anyway. Okay, so let's have a look and see if this works. So theoretically, as I scroll this list view around, there we are. See that? It's telling me the position that it's up to. So if I go right to the top, I'm at scroll position 0. Down here, I'm at 1276. Okay, so what we can do is we can use that information to then adjust these angles on here. So the challenge now is how do you send that information to the cell? the messaging center, right? Messaging center is actually a pretty good option for this, I think. Okay, so now instead of just like doing a debug, right, what we'll do is we'll send a message saying, hey, the scroll position's changed. So we can say messaging center dot send. Now, the sender, what a nice little trick that I learned was instead of putting like, this in here or main page, just create a proxy object for it. So I'm going to add a new class. I'm just going to call this like a, like a scroll message. Right. It doesn't actually have to have anything in it. Right. But what I could do is I could have a public const string something like that. And now I can say, hey, go and send a scroll message. Yeah. The sender for this, instead of I'm just saying this, I'm saying, hey, I'm just creating a scroll message and I'm sending that through. And then I could probably do something like scroll message dot scroll changed. Okay. So that's basically saying, hey, I want to send that through. And if I want, I can send an argument across here. So that would be args.y. Okay, so we need a message. We also need to tell it the value. Okay, cool. So that's sending a message, a scroll message with a double payload. All right, so the double payload is this one here. Beautiful. Once I have that in place, now I can just come into my book view cell here, right? And I basically just want to subscribe to that message, really, when it comes down to it, right? So this becomes the interesting bit about cell recycling as well, because with Xamarin.Forms, it depends on your scroll mode on whether it creates a cell for every single item. So let's say I've had 100 items in my list. Let's have a look at the different modes. Xamarin.Forms list view. What are they called? Caching strategy. Okay. There's basically 3 caching strategies. There's retain element. Retain element says, I'm going to create a cell for each, like a view cell for every element in your list. So if I had 100 things in my list, it would have 100 cells, which is not cool because I can only see in my application here, I can only see like 3 or 4 of them, right? So recycle element says, you know what? I'm just going to create like 3 cells or 4 cells or however many I can see on my screen. And then as a new one comes in, it's going to change the binding context, right? And so really we want to use recycle element in our list view, because if we do that, then there'll only be like 3 people listening to this message, if that makes sense. Right, so it's actually pretty important. We'll set the caching strategy here to recycle element. All right, cool. So now in our cell, what we can do is we can say, let's go to the messaging center, subscribe to a scroll message. Going to give us a double, so it's going to give us a scroll position. Who's subscribing? I'm subscribing. What's the message we're subscribing to? The scroll changed message is what we're subscribing to. And then an action to do, right? So in our case, it's going to get a sender and it's going to get some args in here. And we can say, let's go and do some stuffs inside of here. And in our case, we want to store away that value, right? So like our scroll value. Equals args. Oh yeah, it's just args, right? So maybe a better name would be value. Yeah. Okay, and that's going to tell us how far it scrolled, and then we will invalidate our surface. So that's our cell. Tell the cell to redraw. Okay. We should actually make sure that it's valid. Okay. Tell the cell to redraw. All right, cool. So now we know it's changed, and then we need to update the information. Now, the problem is that we don't know where the cell is in relation to the screen. It turns out there is somebody wrote a nice little way of doing this. I've got it stored away here somewhere. Here we go. Okay, so what this is, let me just post a link out to this because this is a really cool little article, this one. Okay. Let me post this out. This has a method in it. This method is a location fetcher. So given a view, it returns the coordinates of that view, right? So what I can do is I can actually go and splat this code in, right? And then inside of here, I'll be able to work out where the cell is. Okay, so let me let's go and rip off this code. Okay, so the way this works, it needs to call down to the platform. So we're going to use the dependency service for this. So I'm going to add an interface. And I'll just copy it from what is in that post. So it's a view location fetcher. Give a nasty name. And it basically has one method. The one method in here is to say, hey, for a view, go and get me the coordinates of that view. Beautiful. Hey, James Montemagno. You need a Xamarin cutout. Yeah. You just need to like crop yourself. I've also got a shame button for all the times I do bad code.
Shame. Shame. Shame.
Which is quite often. You want to know how to do it? Do you actually want me to explain to you right now, James, how to do it? Actually, let me finish this. So, yeah, let me do this. So what we're doing is we're creating a dependency service, or we're creating an interface, which we're going to implement on Android and iOS. And we'll call this our view location fetcher. You may even know this, James. So what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to get the physical location of a control, or of a view cell, actually, is what I'm doing. So I found this nice little bit of code that will do it for me. So this is an view location fetcher. So obviously it needs to call down to the platform. Get coordinates for a view. So this is the code I found in that Stack Overflow. So where are we? We're in Android. So here's the code. Here's the code. The code here, whoa. The code here says, passes in a view, it gets the native renderer for that view, and then says, hey, go and get the density, right? And then it says, hey, go and get the location on the screen. Okay, and then basically divides out the density and then returns a point. Yeah, we can get the density from essentials. Yeah, so we can say like, we can do this, right? So we can say Xamarin, display info dot no, wait on device info dot main display, or I did it the other day. What is it? Device display. There we go. This is it. Device display dot main display info dot density. There we are. Beautiful. Ooh. What's this come back as? Double. So what was it? It was a float. So before, what it was using, just out of interest, it was using that. It was basically going to the context, getting the density from there. So basically doing an Android call. But you know, James, I trust your code more. Let's have a look. What do you do? Ooh. Get real metrics. Yours looks a lot more advanced. I'll give you that. Can we go? What are we going to? Get default. Context. Yeah, let's blow this up. Right. Technically speaking, really it only need, densities can never change. Right? Whereas this one is, yeah. So, so it's probably a little bit wasteful to even just doing it in here at all. Anyway, let's see if it works, right? So the idea is this is going to go and get the view location. We're going to put this in a dependency service. What is it called? Dependency. View location. Gotcha. Something like that. Okay. And we're going to do the same thing on iOS. So let me just slam in the iOS one first. Yeah, I'd say cache the density. Yeah, totally. I wonder if that's going to change with any of the multi-screen things that are happening. Righty. Implement that bad boy. And let's steal the code for the iOS version of this, which is a little bit simpler. So goes to the platform. Oi, oi, oi. That's the wrong one. Gets the renderer for the element. View. Gets the native view. Yeah, on Windows it could technically change, yeah. And also, that's the other thing I was wondering, James, that always made me a little bit, I wonder about this, you know, where we have like main display. I'm assuming main display is actually the main display. So if I was running a UWP application and I had different densities on different screens, I'm assuming this is going to get it from the main screen, not actually where I am. It's a small thing, you know, it's a really small thing, but. Oh, it's the main display where the app is. Beautiful. Oh, awesome. And that also means caching it is potentially a bad thing as well. Yeah, cool. All right. Well, let's go with that. If you Windows doesn't support apps spanning two densities anyway. It just freaks out. Okay. Type of view location. Is that right? Yeah. Okay, cool. Yeah, it's very upset. Absolutely. Two densities is massive fail. Okay, so now we have this get coordinates. So in our view cell, hold on. Game says hold on. What is rect? So this is getting CG point. You think it's getting a bit meta, R2?
It's R2, so you can't argue with it.
Yeah, that's a core graphics CG point. So I can use essentials to convert a rect to a point. Actually, only okay. We're saying rect dot to. Oh wait on. Well, that's a different type of rect, right? Okay. Hang on. Why is my platform upset now? And what namespace was it in? I should use can I use a static reference? Static using? I don't really like static usings. Xamarin.Forms platform iOS.platform. Wow, what a nasty namespace. All right. What am I trying to do here? So 2 point is going to give me the X and Y. Yeah, but a point's got 2 values and a rect has 4 values, right? So then you're saying I can get a point F out of here and I can return it back out of here. Cool. Why is it rounding this to an int? Because it's a float. So you're saying I can do this. Yeah, like that. All right. Less guessing, we do it for you. Well, I'm always happy to have James, I'm always happy to have less of my code, more of somebody else's. All right, cool. Let's try use this thing then. It's the little things, exactly. So what we have done now is we know we're scrolling, we're invalidating the surface. Inside of here, we want to go and get our service. So location services are dependency service.get. And what do we call it? View location fetcher. Something like that. And then we could say view locator service dot get coordinates of this dot view. Okay. And you can go back and forth and such. Yeah, cool. Okay, now this is probably a really bad idea here to do this in the paint surface. Let's do this once. So this is going to be an I view location service. No, no, no. I didn't want to do that. What's it called? Maybe it's not called that. What's my interface called? I view location fetcher. All right, well, let's rename that because it's got a bad name. All right. Now view location fetcher, which we're now what we can now do is we can say down here, we can work out this cell's position. And then given this cell's position, we can then adjust the angle that we're drawing all of this stuff on. So let's just simplify this a little bit here. Let's just say, if I was to get the info width, so the width of the cell, times that, and then just like literally this cell's position dot y. So basically I'm going to say if we've got a cell, I'm going to say 0.7, which is like over here. And then based on where the cell is positioned, like in the grander scheme of the list view, subtract or add some value. So it's as it moves up and down, it's going to adjust the angle of this. That's the idea here. And we probably want to do the same thing from here as well. So I'll say info.height. 0.8, right? So what we're trying to reproduce here, it's not probably 0.8. So it depends on, see, the thing is with this layout, it depends on where we scroll to, on what angle this is going to be. So I'm basically, let's just start it off nice and simple. Oops.
Today we're gonna code lots with Mr. Kim.
Hey, Wooleen Soup 8181. Thank you so much for the follow. Appreciate it. and welcome. Add you to the register here. Balloon soup. Beautiful. Thank you. All right, so we should have something to actually visualize here in a second. So we're going to go and get that first path. Okay, and then the second path, we pretty much want to do the same sort of thing. Let's do this. Let's see what this will do. Info width minus the cell position. Let's go info width minus, and we'll just halve it maybe. So we'll minus this cell position. So we'll subtract twice as much off. All right, so the idea is that we have these two lines. Oops, why don't you? Oh, cell position dot y. And by height times 0.6. Okay, we'll keep those the same. All right, what mess are we in at the moment? Let's give it a run, see if it works. I think it's just about right. So for those wondering what on earth we're even trying to do, we're trying to do this first part of this screen. And what this screen does is as the list view scrolls, it actually changes the angle of those lines. Okay, something like that. The colors are terrible, but we've actually got each of our cells rendering. Now, I have no idea. I'm gonna have to call this stream quits in a moment. I have no idea what algorithm they're actually using in this here. I feel like it was just a graphic designer just made stuff up as they went along. You see, it's sort of animating in. They're all kind of different, right? But my assumption here is, you know, what we're really trying to do with this challenge is just get it to a point where we're getting those animations right, or at least getting the animations. Okay, so that's animating those in. Actually works really, really well. And the cool thing is, let's check this out actually. One of the reasons why, remember we changed the caching strategy of the list view to recycle element. The important part of that was that here where we're listening, we're subscribing to all of these, to this messaging center. We don't want to do that loads and loads of times, but if we go debug right line, in fact, we don't even need to do that. We could probably just put a breakpoint here. Hopefully what we'll see is that we don't get, like I think we've got, I don't know, maybe 20 objects in our list view. This should only actually fire for pretty much however many cells that we have on the screen, I think. As it creates a cell, so it's going 1, 2, 3, 4, 4. Right. So it's basically just, there's only those 4 cells which are being recycled, right? That's just changing the binding context. So it's not like there's 100 things all subscribing to this message. Probably as a new one comes in and it gets recycled. But I think, yeah, see, as additional ones come in, it only did 4 because there is a point where you can see 4 at a time. But as we scroll around, all good. Alrighty. So that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. We've got the basics of this first screen. Let's just run it here. Let's write ourselves some to-dos because I'm gonna have to go and do my real job in a second. Oh, James, here's if you're still around, James, here's another thing I did as well. Real jobs, yeah, I know. Try this out on your stream, James. I created a scene for my Android emulator. So now I can just do that. And I've also got one for iOS as well. And then I've got one for both. Anyway, that wasn't the point. The point was, let's have a look at this. So we've got the basics working. We're gonna have to do some maths. Yeah, it's just the window. It's like literally capturing the window. We get that animation working. The next step for us in this is, I think the colors in this design are pretty important. So I feel that just us adjusting the luminosity of the color is not a great solution. I think we're going to have a dictionary of some sort to assign these colors specifically, because it's an important part. Yeah, you need a heftier computer. I actually just use a single PC. It was easier. Okay, cool. So we have that. We'll adjust this. Let's write some to-dos here. What's next? Make the angles more accurately reflect the design. Adjust the colors so we have specific colors versus adjusting luminosity. We need to put in the images of the people instead of having that round that blue circle there at the moment. We need to bring in fonts and styles because at the moment it's pretty ugly. And then what we need to do is we need to do the shared transition. So the shared transition, this is going to be the interesting part for the next stream. In fact, I may do some of this in between streams because it's pretty boring work, to tell you the truth. The shared transition is the better thing to stream, and that is basically trying to do this. And James, I may need to hit you up because I've never done shared transitions, but I know that there's a really good library out there. So the idea, somebody selects a book like this one down here, and then it transitions to another page. So all of the animations inside of here, I can do those. That's not a problem. I just don't know how to do shared transitions. So that'll be special. But that, my friends, is for another day. All right. So with that, I think it might be time for me to sign off. I'm going to check in this code in case anyone wants to go and access it. Yeah, that'll be tricky. I have no idea. I mean, I could definitely do that. I could definitely do that if I just overlaid an element on top of it and not actually go to a different page. And I may have to do that. But I'd like to, I'm always a bit scared of shared transitions, but there's so many designs that use them. I should become comfortable with them. Everything that's happening inside of there, I can do all that stuff. That's not a problem. Anyway, let's leave that problem for next week. Let me check in some stuff here. Yeah, so James, what you're talking about there is actually exactly what I did for slash, what was it called? Unzone. If you remember, I don't know, I did this one here where when a user selects an item in the list view, yeah, so that's exactly what I did. I basically took a copy of the image and overlaid it over top. I could do the same thing. I'd like to try it in shared transitions though, because failing's fun. So also, James, let me know when you want to talk about how to set up that OBS thing. Unless people are interested, I can show you now. Take Friday off. James said, it just means I need to work at night. But that's a great thing about working at home is I can do this and then as long as I put in some hours tonight, I'm good. Just trying to see who's online. We should go and raid somebody. Or did you want to see the OBS stuff, James? No, we can do it later on. Does this not count as work? It does for James. It doesn't for me. 10% of the time, all the time. Alrighty. So let's look at that. Look at my desktop. Isn't that shameful?
Shame. Shame.
All right.
Shame.
Today we're gonna code lots with Mr.
Hey, IK Works.
Hudson. Oh, how amazing.
Thank you for the follow. Just in time for us to finish the stream. But I appreciate it. Thank you so much. All right, cool. Let's have a look and see if we can raid somebody. I'm just going to have a look and see who's on, because it's kind of a good thing to do, right, on Twitch. So anyone got any recommendations? A good place to go for programming streams is here. Anyone got a somebody they want to follow or want to raid to? Games and code looks like gaming. When in doubt, go Lana. Fritz mentioned pick. Well, why don't we do this? Why don't we go across here? I think Dr. Mikachu is part of the live coders as well. We've all got to watch a Twitch ad. So look, I'm going to set up a follow. So please, good old ads, yeah. So please do hang around, and we'll raid. Doctor.
Our struggle as artists isn't about appeasing the crowd.
Mikachu.
Rather, it's about
Oh, look, it's Unity work.
inside of ourselves.
I love Unity. All right, I think I've got my.
Things as a reflection of this struggle
I think I've got an ending screen now as well. So hang out, join the raid if you can.
of self.
Thanks again, and
That way
we'll see you next time.
isn't necessarily a thing.
Bye for now. Well, actually, no. Join the follow
Rather,
if I can work out how to do it.
mind which you constantly strive toward. This all comes from an understanding that ideas aren't static, but fluid.
Because I'm already raiding another channel.
Be like water.
I'm so terrible at this. Oh, look at this. Yeah. Have a look at this. It says I'm already raiding another channel. Lols. Oh well. No worries, everyone. Well, listen, take care. Have a great weekend. I'll see you next time. Oh, hang on. Here comes a raid. What a disaster. All right, take care, everyone. Bye for now.